Hi everyone, it's Leanne from Jada Blossom and it's time for the September mini release and this is Project 1. Hey, so I'm using Jada Blossom's brand new mini turkey die, their fancy pumpkin dies, their fall candies grid style, their mini tag dies 3, their candy charms and banner dies, their candy grid dies, their scalloped square die, along with odds and ends from Doodlebug, the pumpkin spice and the matching pumpkin spice 6-inch pad. And I put that guy together on the assembly video, so check that out. So I am going to assemble an A2 size but square card. So 4.25 by 8.5, scored at 4.25 inches. And that's dark chocolate cardstock from Papertrey Ink. And then I'm going to add some Neenah 80-pound Solar White cardstock to the inside, 4-inch square. And then a 1-inch strip of paper from Doodlebug's Pumpkin Spice 6-inch pad. There we go. And I realize, oops, it's upside down because there's smiles and the smiles are all in one direction. So I had to flip it over. So sometimes these prints are directional. Luckily I had my glasses on and I saw that. There we go, adding it with some HEG tape, and I will trim off that overhang with a pair of scissors. Now I'm using my Anna Griffin Empress, working on a stamp pen up pad, you know, doing all the stuff that I do. So this is a stamp from that Fall Candies Grid Style stamp set. So that's stamped in VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink on Neenah Desert Storm 80-pound cardstock and cut out with the mini tag dies 3. And I'm just, you know, trimming off that overhang with a pair of scissors, and now I'm going to add some of these pumpkin spice little odds and ends to the inside of my card just for fun. I love using Doodlebug's odds and ends on the inside of my cards. I just think it adds a little something something, right? And there's always these kind of little heart ephemera too that come in the package, and I like to add a few of those as well. And you know, I just think it's super fun. So the inside of the sentiment there says thankful and grateful. So that's the inside of my card. And I'm taking a Jelly Roll pen, a Secura White in a number 10 to add some freckles, because of course the leaves would have freckles. And then I'm also going to use a Secura Black Glaze pen just to darken up the eyes on that one leaf. Now this kind of gives it some dimension and shine, but remember it takes a bit to dry, so be careful. Now I'm going to put together the outside of the card. So first I cut out the fancy pumpkin swirl out of Candy Stripe and Sprinkles from Doodlebug. And then I cut the stem out of dark chocolate cardstock from Papertrey Ink. And then this top layer I cut out of Papertrey Ink Canyon Clay. Kind of like a dark orange. And I'm just going to use my Bearly Art glue. And, you know, I want to glue all the little pieces down, you know, just so nothing kind of sticks up, right? That's the nice thing about a needle tip, right? Although it did take me a little longer than I expected. Remember, my videos are always sped up, so, you know, I don't work this fast at all. So I'm going to layer those up. So there is my fancy swirl type pumpkin. And I will use an acrylic block to weight it down for a bit. Now I'm going to put together my little sentiment. So that is also from the Candy Grid Style, Fall Candies Grid Style stamp set. So it says Happy Turkey Day. And I used the grid dies and the, what are they called? Candy charms and banner dies for those. And the banner part, the one with the little hole in it, that was cut from dark chocolate cardstock from Papertrey Ink. And the sentiment was stamped onto Neenah Desert Storm 80-pound cardstock with the VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink. So now I'm going to apply some of this pattern paper from that Pumpkin Spice 6-inch pad. That is cut 1/8 of an inch smaller than an A2 size card base, so 4 1/8 inches square. And I also used the scallop square dies to cut out this piece. That's paper also from that same pad. And I'm just going to add that down with my HEG tape again. Has a cute pumpkin pattern on the back. But I wanted something, you know, not too busy, so I'm using this green pattern here. There we go. getting it in place. And then I will get my little pumpkin sort of in place. I'm going to add that to my card with some ATG tape. And I'll add a little bit of glue around the edge so it doesn't go anywhere. And we will stick that down kind of, you know, to the bottom of that scalloped square die. And I do weight it down with an acrylic block. Next, I'm going to add these curlicues. These were cut out of dark chocolate cardstock from Paper Tray ink as well. And I'm just going to kind of slip them in there, here and there. I love the curlicues. I think they really add something. So I'm just going to slip them in. I love that fancy pumpkin die. I just think it's so pretty. I'm going to add on this last little swirly piece with some Bearly Art glue again. And I don't mind that the tail kind of goes over into the pumpkin because I'm going to cover that up with that little tag, the sentiment tag. And I'm going to add that last little twirly or swirl in the lower right-hand corner. Gotta love some vines, right, with a pumpkin. And then that is where my little sentiment is going to end up. I'm going to glue that down with some Bearly Art glue. And I'm just going to kind of overlap things. There it is. So happy Turkey Day, and I will weight that down. Now I'm adding on a little leaf. That was cut from Paper Tray ink New Leaf cardstock. I'm just going to add that in. And I do slip in a little piece of dimensional behind that leaf, just because it goes over the edge of that dimensional pumpkin there. And then next we will add this adorable little turkey. That's the new mini turkey die from Jada Blossom. Remember, you know, there is an assembly video for this guy. It's pretty simple, but you know, I used Dot Stripe Doodlebug cardstock, Scarlet Jewel from Paper Tray ink, American Crafts yellow cardstock, and Pure Poppy cardstock from Paper Tray ink to put that guy together. Next, I'm going to add a little jute bow to where that little tag kind of hangs down, the little hole. I'm covering the hole up. And I'm just trimming that to fit. And I do clamp it down with my reverse tweezers just to make sure it has good contact with my cardstock so it'll glue down. And I'm just trimming off those little ends. And there we go. And now I'm pulling out shape sprinkles from Doodlebug. These are called the Flower Farm. And I first put some orange here and I changed my mind. I leave my boo-boos in. So I'm adding in these orange ones and I realize they just really don't go. Like they're just a little bit off in color. Then I'm thinking, do I want to use the turquoise ones? Like, what am I doing here? Then I decide, you know what? Maybe I want to use the brown ones. So, you know, visual triangles and all that jazz. And I decide, you know what? I like the brown better than the orange. So I'm just going to take off that reverse clamping there. And now I'm going to peel up my little orange ones. And I'm going to add the brown ones in the same place. Because, you know, like I always say, Leanne's a little bit crazy when it comes to this kind of stuff. Sometimes I think about it a little bit too much. So I'm going to add in, like I said, visual triangles, odd numbers are your friends when it comes to adding these. And, you know, I love to add hearts. I also use Distress ink and Vintage Photo around that little turkey. You know, just FYI. So thank you so much for stopping by. Be sure to hop on over to the Jada Blossom blog, Be Inspired by the Team, the Jada Blossom store to get your hands on this cute mini release. And thanks for watching. Bye, everybody.